Take you to court? Why, I didn't know you felt that way. This chain of events started almost 20 years ago, and involves myself and a notoriously snooty national real estate agency. There is a bit of background leading to the MC incident, so please bear with me. This all occurred in Queensland, Australia. I once rented a property through an agency from 2004 to 2006. Due to my ex-partner's explosive and violent temper, we had been handed an eviction notice. There was damage to the property that was unfixed at the time we were evicted, damage that was in the form of fist and hammer-sized holes in walls, etc. We obviously did not receive any of the bond deposit back, as the repair costs more than absorbed the amount. There was also an added sum of about $1,700 extra to cover the rest of the costs incurred repairing the damage. This amount was forwarded to a debt collections agency. This collection amount was in both of our names, as we had jointly been on the lease agreement. I was not upset at the agency. They were just doing their job by being a good advocate for the owner of the property at this stage. Taking the bond and charging us for the repair was standard and not nasty, vindictive, or overkill in the slightest. My anger came later. Although I must admit I was a bit miffed to be duly held financially responsible for the damage caused by my ex, but due to the nature of the joint lease not much could be legally done. I was just grateful we had parted ways not long after. A few years post-eviction, I wanted to get my life more organized in many areas and tie up any loose ends that would impede me moving forward. A clean slate, so to speak. So, the debt issue came first. After many phone calls, and some paperwork exchange, plus an escalation or two, the debt collection agency finally agreed to split the $1,700 damages bill between the ex and myself. Now I could pay off half and not be held accountable for his portion any longer. This had to be done without his consent, as he refused. I'm unsure as to why, possibly hoping I would pay the whole lot to rebuild my credit rating, or most likely just to be annoying. Once I had paid off my portion of the collector's debt, I thought I was done with the whole business and the black mark against my name. Not so, unfortunately. It turned out that the state I lived in had a blacklist that real estate agencies and lessors could add tenants' names to. It's called the TICA list. All they needed was proof that the tenant had behaved in a bad enough manner regarding renting of a property to warrant being listed. Due to the fact we had been evicted, the damage, and also owed arrears to a debt agency for repairs, we unfortunately qualified. Being on this list made it almost impossible to rent, especially via a real estate agency. After speaking extensively with the RTA, which is a government agency, I found I was definitely eligible to have my name removed from the list, so I started taking action for this to happen. I was able to demonstrate good faith by having paid for half of the damages. It also went in my favor that my partner was abusive, and there was legal evidence of this fact. However, I was told the only way to have my name removed was by the real estate agency, so I approached them and asked for them to do so. They were very helpful initially. If I was able to show them proof that the debt was settled, they were happy to remove my name. At least 7 years had elapsed by this point, so it was considered punishment enough. At the time, after 5 years, your name is usually removed from the TICA list. However, this company apparently kept tabs on who they had added to the list, and when the person's 5 years expired, they just added them again. Dirty tactics indeed. Obviously I had been re-added, so I provided relevant documents to the agency and was assured my name would be removed as soon as they located my file. This apparently had been stored away in archives, as much time had passed since I rented with them. I was told this would take a week maximum. All good. So, I called a week later, and was told to wait another week, still in a kind, helpful and cordial tone. I called again after that time and was told to wait, you guessed it, another week, and this time I detected a tone of frost in the reply, so I called back more than a week later just to show patience, and now was spoken to in a very haughty manner. I was informed that my request was bothersome, being so because what I asked was not important and finding my file was a waste of their staff time. They would call me when they got around to it. I expressed how important it was personally, and then hearing the magic words, almost verbatim, "If you want us to do this so badly, we will only be forced to help you if ordered. Perhaps you should take us to court if you can't be patient." Goodbye. String me along? Okay, game on. I had a feeling this was all done to avoid removing my name as they had found my file, also, that they were stalling, and wanted me to stay blacklisted, but I wasn't backing down without a fight, and so I took their advice. I filed against them to have the matter seen in a small claims court. It cost me $35 which would be reimbursed by the agency if I won. I didn't have anything to lose and I wanted them to know that not all people will hold indefinitely, or continue to be unjustly punished for longer than fair. It was listed to appear in about 4 days from filing. As soon as they received the court date paperwork, I was suddenly bombarded with phone calls. How dare I take the agency to court when they were working their hardest to find my file and help me? Doing my best to sound apologetic for taking their advice, I thanked them for the suggestion, as it seemed there would now be a time frame at least for the matter to be dealt with. On the day of court, I had 3 sheets of paper as my sole evidence: a statement showing that repair bill had been paid and there were no finances outstanding, a statement from the RTA that I was eligible to have my name taken off the TICA list, and lastly a document stating it was at the behest of the real estate agency to remove my name and that they had no good reason not to. Not 1 but 2 agents for the company showed up to court. When it came before the judge, both parties had to give evidence if relevant. I handed in my 3 pages. Seeing them pass the judge a thick folder of paperwork, including photos of the property damage, was rather amusing considering they supposedly couldn't find my file when last requested. The judge asked them for a statement. They went on for a few minutes about why I didn't deserve to be removed, and justified their stance with the photos and prior rental history with them. All I had to reply was that I had paid for my share of the damage, that the damage was due to my abusive ex, and that I had made restitution as much as I could regarding the matter, with no money owing. The judge then asked why I had brought it to court. I explained that the company was dragging their feet removing my name when it was a simple matter, and it wasn't necessarily fair to do so, that I had called them repeatedly and waited while they found my, so hard to locate, paperwork that had somehow miraculously appeared when convenient, that being on the TICA list was harmful to my future chances at renting, and also that my name had been resubmitted after dropping off the list. The judge queried them why they had added my name again. They stated it was company policy. The judge expressed agreement with my stance. I had been punished enough, had made financial restitution, and now that my file had been located, I was not to be blacklisted anymore. Case decided in my favor. Win. The real estate agency was given 48 hours to submit proof to the court, and a copy to myself, that I was now off the list. Also, they had to pay for the $35 I spent taking them to court. The pair of agents walked out in a huff and were on the phone out in the hallway immediately after vacating the courtroom. I floated past them as I was on a justice high. As I got to the lifts, I thanked them for coming and their sound advice in recommending court. Also, that I was grateful for the bottle of wine they would be buying me with the $35 I was to be paid back. The look on their faces was priceless.
Now to the comments. Notoriously snooty. I do like this phrase. Your tale warms my heart. I'm a local and I am struggling to pick between a few I can think of, national franchise chains each one. I have a low opinion of the vast majority of them developed over a few decades.
OP replied. It's rather unfortunate that a few fit the brief.
Plus, the $35 reimbursement to you pales in comparison to the cost of sending 2 lawyers to court for a few hours.
OP replied. I think one was just a manager of the real estate agency, the other was most likely a lawyer though.
Honestly, what a waste of time. What a couple of prudes. How on earth does it benefit them to keep people from renting properties after they have made restitution and settled all accounts with them? Either way they get paid.
Tenants causing problems make them do more work for the same amount of income. Much easier to prevent getting them in the first place.